Welcome to Syntax. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Front End Happy Hour podcast.
Welcome to this week's JS Party.
Live from Shipshape Studios, this is Whiskey, Web, and Whatnot, with your hosts, Robbie the Wagner and me, Charles William Carpenter III.
That's right, Charles. We drink whiskey and talk about web development. I mean, it's all in the name. It's not that deep.
This is Whiskey, Web, and Whatnot. Do not adjust your set.
In a world where two men drink whiskey and podcast, one of them grew a beard.
Not the direction I was going to go.
Yeah.
I was going to say Decision 2024, where the only decision is to drink whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is there another decision required of us? None whatsoever.
No.
Does anyone want our opinions about anything that isn't brown juice that you're required to be 21 and older to drink? No, I don't think so either.
There aren't that many people that want our opinions on that either. So,
At least not actually in the whiskey world. We haven't fooled them. Just these silly developers.
yes, the intersection of whiskey, developer, and people that, for some reason, like our voices. Whatever.
They're very curious about how
we love all of them, though.
Yes, we appreciate you. Some of them we've been able to show in person. So thank you to anyone listening who joined us in Raleigh for All Things Open. That was super fun. And thank you for not making us take many boxes of t-shirts back.
Yeah, I have to say, probably the best thing about Raleigh is that you can get fried okra for breakfast. So,
I mean,
power
that's the
move.
South. That's the South. I mean, that's some stuff that you got to love about the South. You know what sounds like an amazing breakfast is like biscuits and gravy with a side of fried okra.
Mm-hmm.
I would also take fried pickles and many other fried things.
Well, I don't like pickles, but yeah, fried makes everything better. So.
It does. And the cornmeal fried that's around like okra and a lot of those things in the South, quite delicious.
Yeah, should we talk about this whiskey?
Yeah, let's talk about the whiskey.
It's the Redwood Empire.
It is the Redwood Empire. It is completely brand new to me. I definitely have not tried it before. So today we're having the Redwood Empire Emerald Giant Rye Whiskey. It has a mash bill. I love how you're showing it to the folks at home. 92% rye, 5% malted barley, and 3% wheat. A little touch of wheat there. That's nice. 90 proof. And it is a blend of 4 to 7 year old barrels aged in California by the Californians. Yeah, let's get at it. Sound effects brought to you by the Wagner House. It's Centauri time. Not really, I just like saying that.
Ooh, it's not a Norland glass, I see.
It is not. It is my aged in ore travel kit because some folks may notice that I'm yet again in a different location because that is what I like to do. What can I do on the road? The co-working space that has a podcast room that I have been recording from recently had an issue with that table in there. Wouldn't have held my laptop, let alone all the rest of the equipment. So I had to skedaddle back to the home and quickly set up here where it's much brighter. And I'm lucky that the rest of my family is actually out for the afternoon, giving us at least the quiet with which to imbibe.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. It's got quite a sweet smell for me.
Yeah, it smells extremely apple-y to me.
Yeah, okay. Like a caramel apple. Actually, I can get that little caramel apple.
Like,
It's very pleasant.
yeah, like you could tell me this was a cup of apple cider and I wouldn't be like, no, it's not.
Right.
Like,
yeah. That's ridiculous. All right. Well, on that, I'm going to prime the palate and then kind of get into it. By the way, are we live streaming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to make sure I have the chat open just in case we have any friends there who may have questions.
If Charles or Cyrus want to join us.
Anyone.
Or anyone, but yeah.
Anyone. You know, if you'd like to join us. Yeah. Would you like to join us for a drink? Maybe if we had advertised it like that. We are recording this on Wednesday, November 6th, and some folks may feel the need to drink. Actually, a lot of folks may feel the need to drink regardless of what your opinions on outcomes are. So there's nothing wrong with that. It has a little bit, well, I primed it, so I'm going to give it kind of... This episode is brought to you by The Primeagen. Watch his world-famous YouTube stream the prime time.
where he will do some JavaScript sometimes and
Yeah, I
usually
think so
not.
sometimes. No, it's usually every time I jump on it ends up being like Go.
Yeah.
Most of the
Whenever
times
he's
Go.
doing JavaScript, the title is always something to the effect of like, I'm actually doing JavaScript, guys, come watch, or something like that.
Yeah. It's got a nice smooth finish. Again, kind of some sweet on that finish. Initially, and I mean this in a good way, but like its initial flavors are a little vinegary, but like an apple cider vinegar without being so tart. Like if you had a watered down in the beginnings of that, and then coated definitely in that caramel butterscotch as part of the finish. Something else I'm trying to pick up on here.
So this would be a good barbecue sauce.
I think so. Yeah. I've never made a barbecue sauce from whiskey, but I did see like a Maker's Mark one from it before.
Now we're going to have to make our own Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce. There was this false advertising
it's
of that
gone.
at Sheetz.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Wawa because Sheetz fucked us.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Sheetz is still the winner. But
Yeah. They did have like the bread was good. I mean, I like both, but the bread was good. And I did enjoy their Italian a little better. I don't know if that's
yeah.
probably going to make some enemies out of that comment. Alrighty, and any other things you're picking up in this whiskey? There's something almost like piney or something, like the smell of pine needles, but like a slight like taste of that. I don't know.
Yeah, some coniferous foliage.
That's it. I don't know where you pulled that from, but I respect it. I respect the game. You brought it.
Yeah, some balsam and I don't know, fuck it. I'm not getting a lot.
No,
it is,
you're not?
When you've said something about it tasting like a little bit like a pine tree, I get a little of those notes, but it's not like heavily
No, it's
inspired.
very faint. It's mostly a bit of that like tart cider vinegar kind of in the beginning, and then a very sweet finish and pretty smooth going down. So we'll say that. I know we've tried at least one other Redwood Empire. I think they're bourbon. Yeah, this is interesting. It's actually like, I would say like not bad. This is definitely worth trying for me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
Let the folks at home know what our highly stringent rating system is.
Our system is very complex. It's very hard for people to understand. It is 0 to 8 tentacles. That is the number of tentacles an octopus can have, usually. And 8 is the most ideal amount of tentacles. The octopus is fully alive. No one has hunted it or cut its tentacles off. You really like the whiskey. If it has no tentacles, you've probably killed that octopus. You hate that whiskey.
Yes.
4 is like, he's struggling, but as we learned, they can regenerate their tentacles. So like might be okay with half of it. Middle of the road. Gonna survive, hopefully. I think this is, I don't know. It's not super yummy for being a rye, at least from the ryes I'm used to. Yeah. I don't think there's anything I can pick out necessarily that I'm like, I don't like this. But just from a like purely subjective, like, I don't love it, I'm going to give it a 4, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I guess it's true when you like compare to other ryes. I think it's interesting. I think it's easy drinking. I don't think it stands out a ton though. I don't know. I think it's $40-$50, let's say, in that range. Nothing crazy, but it feels a little singular note and lacks the spice that we look for in a rye. Especially 92% rye. Like that wheat really kind of does a lot to make it sweeter and a little smoother through. And so it's missing some notes maybe because of that for me. I was going to go maybe like 4.5 to 5. I'll probably just do 4.5. It's like, I don't know. It's different than average. And I would say if somebody hadn't really cared for a traditional rye, you might like this one because it adds a very light note of sweetness from like a wheated bourbon, but not crazy like that. It's a good middle road. If like wheated bourbon's too much for you, but you also don't want like a spice punch, this might work. Yeah, it's okay. Not bad. I would drink, wouldn't necessarily sync it up.
Yeah, I think like I've been rating everything kind of like 6 or 7, and I'm just trying to kind of rein that in a bit because we've had a lot of whiskeys, and like unless I rate it below a 4, that's saying I would drink it again. I like it. Yeah. So like, I'm not saying this is bad. If you want to try it out, definitely do. Yeah. But like, I got to start being more aggressive with the ratings, I think.
Especially you, because you are a, rye aficionado, a classic rye fanatic, you may say. And if this just it's not checking those basic boxes for you, it should definitely be pushed back. Yeah. I mean, if we baseline this to Sagamore, and Sagamore is just more well-rounded, hits all of those traditional notes around a rye, a little more punch. And that's maybe more of a straight sipper, while this might be interesting in some rye-based cocktails.
Yeah.
Cool. We have no hot takes for each other, because why would we do that? How many times can we ask, get Rebase or get merge? And I still say get Rebase, by the way, because interactive Rebase is very powerful, and I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Rebase is definitely the winner. But yeah, I mean, there's probably some more hot takes. I've been having a hard time keeping track of what is a hot take due to other things happening in the world, and there not being as many posts, and then also due to everyone leaving for Bluesky. I don't know if you've been keeping track of that.
Maybe that's a hot take, Bluesky or Twitter.
It depends.
It doesn't for me.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and here's what it is mostly, is that never say never, but like I barely want to be on one social media platform, so I'm just not willing to kind of like schedule out and split time and whatever else. And kind of like watching nerd fights and replying in, memes or whatever is fun for me. And so it's sort of like, I don't really think any of these platforms are for serious discourse necessarily. They're more for like,
No.
here's what I did, or here's a thing I think, or here's like a mind blurb. And outside of that, it's like, I don't want to do that I don't even have an Instagram. It's like, I don't want to do that multiple places.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is never underestimate the wrath of an entire set of people who, most of the people from tech Twitter are probably not happy with the election, therefore not happy with Elon, and are leaving for that reason.
Right.
I have yet to see a platform capture the same dynamicism. I don't know what, like, it's fun to be able to see different content. It still seems to understand that I want to see mostly technical stuff. The algorithm, for better or worse, has been mostly good. It's been bad recently for our posts. Like, no one sees our stuff for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And maybe that was an election time thing. Like, everything not election was just kind of deprioritized or something.
I don't know. The stuff that like catches fire is weird, and I'm still an idiot. Maybe just mostly because I don't put enough effort into it. I don't know. Or maybe it's just my things aren't as compelling as I think they are. But like the ones that do get a bunch of things seen, it's just really weird. Like I commented on, somebody was talking about like having contractors make their app like offshore and getting back like this crazy complex stack that included Kafka. It essentially was like a CRUD application. And I was like, why is Kafka part of this? Why is a message, like a very complex messaging queue setup thing, a part of what you're describing? And that one did really well. Weird stuff. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I really don't understand it. But like, so for one, Runspired no longer has Twitter or Facebook. He declared he deleted both.
Did he actually? Because I feel like he's raged quit a couple of times. And then
but enough people have left now is the difference.
I don't think they've left though.
Not left, have both created a Bluesky.
Well, yeah. And I see that, and you saw the, butterfly effect, blah, 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 whatever. And it's fine. Like, again, if you have time and you want to invest in that and see where that goes, hey, let me know. But like, I don't have it.
Yeah. I mean, I have one and the podcast has one. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how you search for people. Like, so that's the thing is, I mean, the search is good. I'm not saying it's like the search is bad, but it's like this weird thing that I don't understand where you can either be like part of the Bluesky like core thing, or you can host your own, or you can do a little bit of both where you're like, I have a website, but I want to use kind of the base feed still. And so I've like validated myself as RobbieTheWagner.dev, and the podcast is Whiskey FM. Yeah. So like, I think that's kind of cool that you can be like, for sure these people are associated with that domain because they've verified it through their DNS. So that's compelling. There's also like, but then I don't get how it works, because there's like the main feed, which like there's got to be some kind of algorithm behind it. It does ask you, it's like, hey, like 10 things so we know what you like. It's building something. But then there's also like a ton of other feeds. You're like, oh, I want, gaming, or like, there's like, thousands of different feeds. You can make your own feeds. So you could say like, I know all the best people. here's a feed of everything I like. You should follow that feed. Then you can make like a starter pack of people to follow too. And then you can just click follow all at the top. So like I have one of all of the podcast guests we've had. Just follow them all easily.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Like there's a lot of potentially cool things. And it seems like Dan Abramov is the one that's in charge of this now, which is kind of cool. Maybe he always has been, but I don't know. It kind of sucked when it first came out. So I don't know that I want to throw him under the bus like that. But
You know, he can't be great at everything.
well, yeah.
The Achilles heel of Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know, but I feel like something is different. Initially, everyone got a Threads and everyone got a Bluesky, and they both were just like, I've got these, and everyone was like, well, no one's talking here, so like we're back on Twitter. And now it feels different. It feels like a lot of people are so fed up that they're like gonna stay over there.
Maybe, but okay. So I think like creating a perfect cocoon of the idealized social community that you want to exist can be a fallacy, and that you're completely blocked off for like certain parts of reality that exist out there.
Yeah.
And suffices to say, right, I believe that there are certain people, like politically, that believed with grand certainty about particular outcomes because their circle of influence made them believe so. And I think that there's some negatives to being able to completely like rule that out of your sphere of knowledge and influence and experience. Obviously, like if you feel like you're on Twitter and you are subject to some kind of harm that you don't want to experience, or like, you know, psychological or whatever else, like you should get out of that. But for a whole community to sort of remove themselves, I mean, because bear in mind, again, like this isn't some kind of Discord or whatever else where we're trying to talk about JavaScript exclusively. Like we are trying to like get info and influence that is tangential. And also sometimes I like randomly going across, like all of a sudden, because I saw like a history post or something and went down that rabbit hole a little bit. Like those come
are
up every
fun.
once in a while. I think they're very fun, but that's not necessarily like a subject that I'm going to curate. I think I'm just going to kind of fall into it. It feels like walking around like an antiques mall or something and finding something cool or finding jack shit nothing. Like that's the kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, I think no one has really captured that. And you have a good point. Like, I think everyone on both sides of the election was like, I know what's going to happen. Like, this is in the bag. And it's like not the case, obviously. But being able to see the other side kind of takes your brain out of this, like, it's a done deal. I know everything, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you get to see, like, maybe the media is very biased. Like if you're watching NBC or whatever, you're getting one side of
geared
things
to their idealized audience because money comes from ratings, and ratings, you know, matter. And, you know, you pick your side so you can hear what you want to hear, kind of thing. Again, I think that is another fallacy to that whole problem, is like, if you don't get objective news sources or objective scientific sources and things like that, like, that sounds like a really, oh my God, Jason. Yeah, so we've just let our third listener know that the media could be biased. I mean, it's hard to say. It does feel that way. Journalism should be facts-based, and isn't always the case. I don't know. But alas.
We all got to make money. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
You know, Twitter is a conversation point, and people can say kind of what they want there to a degree without it being like some crazy forum where, you know, you're anonymized. I mean, actually, there's some liars on Twitter too. Not even their names. Can you imagine? Warren Buffering. That's not your fucking name.
Maybe he'll change it legally though.
Yeah, I think he should. Yeah, his kids will be the buffering.
Because his wife's account is like Mrs. Buffering, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think you're both living a lie. Just change your last names.
Yeah.
And
yeah. See, so, or maybe we've done it wrong. Like, right? We should have anonymized ourselves on the internet.
I didn't even think about, I don't care about being anonymized, but thinking about like, you could pick whatever name. Like, I've thought of stupid little handles or jokes or whatever, but not like a That's a more nuanced, like they could be a name. I didn't think of like picking a person's name that's also kind of a joke, you know?
Oh, right.
So
yeah,
I'm like, that's a cool way to go about it. You could do a name that seems kind of real. Everyone can know you by that, and it's just fake.
Do you think Jack Resider is his real name?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you don't think
There's no
a chance? No way.
No.
That's pretty smart because it's like, why not? Like actors, musicians, many performers have chosen pseudonyms. For Marilyn Monroe wasn't her real name. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's
very common. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I don't know why. I was thinking like screen names in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Versus names that could be plausibly real, you know?
Yeah. It's a very like specific effort in knowing like where I'm going in life. Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, that's suggested as your name, your stage name. Yeah, I mean, I had like a couple of gamer names like back in the day, or like, so I would go to arcades and you play, and if you get like a high score and you put in 3 letters. So I thought I was super clever for putting in Zod. All hail, son of Jarrell, kneel.
You just didn't
Zod.
do like ass.
No,
like
I did Zod because I thought like that was like pretty clever and whatever else. If you've seen Superman 2, you know what I mean, right? It was the second one.
I don't know. I'm familiar with the reference. I don't know that I've seen the movie. But
yeah, you probably haven't. The first one came out in like 78, something like that. But Christopher Reeve, I mean, it's a classic. Well, Jason, I'm going to let you know my gamer name for a while was Junior McBride. And I thought it was hilarious because it was the name of a character in a 70s porn. And why I thought it was hilarious is like it's early on or whatever, and Junior comes in to like help the neighbor or whatever. And it's the 70s, so the top part of his pants are very tight, and then it's like loose down. And he's like, yeah, it's Junior. And she looks at him and says, you don't look like a junior to me. And she's, of course, checking out the business. And I just thought that's hilarious. So I used that for a while.
That is a good one.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a good story. Should we talk about anything tech related or tech?
Probably.
You jumped ahead to other shit, which is apparently our new show name.
Yeah. Yeah. Catch our new podcast, Other Shit. You can find it on just Amazon Music.
Yes. That's it. You'll find it on Wondery, the Wondery app.
No, you definitely
you can
won't.
subscribe for, I don't know what their common subscription rates may be, but these things happen.
I think it's $9.99 or whatever, the same thing like everybody charges per month.
Yeah, become a super fan. Just send me $10 bill, crisp $10 bill in the mail each month.
Yeah. Well, for real, we do have memberships. If people want to support us, go to whiskey.fund. It's much better to get a membership, even a cheaper one, than buy a shirt, because the shirts really don't give us any money.
Podcast as a service.
Yeah. Like, if you're enjoying this and you want to hear more, we have to spend money on whiskey every week, first world problems, but like it's not cheap. So
I don't even have a job. I mean, come on. So speaking of jobs, not Steve. So
fake jobs?
Yeah, fake jobs. Yeah. Anyway, in terms of like nerd fights, one of many nerd fights has been around like what is a framework, and a web framework should include everything needed to have a basic web application, authentication being a big part of that. Folks would probably say ORM, webhooks, and mailing service. I do feel like a mailing service, webhooks, and just basic authentication. You can like upgrade and do more, but if you can't like just get started, this is kind of the Rails formula of things, the Django formula of things. Those are sort of the areas that I'm thinking of. I've used Redwood. Redwood has all of those things. Is it actually a framework? Potentially. And I think in all of those, you can get started with SQLite also. So you essentially could build a web application on a plane. You could be on a long plane ride and work on this, and no problems. Internet not required kind of thing.
So I do wonder, sorry, I'm derailing your thought here.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
But I wonder if someone has compared explicitly, like, a Rails or a Laravel or something that has like authentication, some kind of ORM, some like basic stuff built in, to a thing like go the complete opposite way and like literally write no code except for hooking the APIs together. Obviously, if your internet is off, you can't use your app at all. Or if your internet is slow, you know, what's the performance difference versus you running, you know, a Rails app on like a bare metal server somewhere and someone's hitting that. And like, I would be curious to see where those bottlenecks are and like, are there actual upsides or downsides to certain things versus like, you know, it being all or nothing. Like I tend to think Rails has had it right the whole time. I would just do that because we have way too many like cloud services now. Is that the right answer? I don't know because I haven't explicitly compared them.
Your job for the rest of this week is to explicitly compare those, and then we'll have a show. We'll have a happy hour where we just talk about
I'll
it.
just tell work that I'm not going to do any work, and I'm going to do that instead because Chuck said I should.
Well, it's research for your next RFP or whatever you have to do to get acknowledged as a experienced developer at Amazon. It would be really funny if your manager ever listened to this podcast.
Oh, he definitely doesn't.
Yeah. If he did, though, he'd be like, Robbie, why are you always complaining about me on the internet and this whole company?
The way I can tell no one listens to it is because no one has brought it up. To be fair, I don't say anything that bad. I'm upset and I make it known, but I'm not like, you know, this person sucks and whatever.
I don't think you
like,
say anything you probably haven't said to them. So I mean, there's that.
I have
There's
a
no
very
surprises there.
transparent relationship with everyone at work. And maybe that's part of why people don't like me enough and don't want to promote me. But I don't know. That's another point, and I'm totally derailing you again, but should you just be your authentic self all the time?
No.
Or not, maybe not all the time.
You
but
shouldn't.
like
No.
mostly? Okay, you're saying no.
No, I don't think so.
A lot of people say if you're trying to be like a podcaster or, you know, create content, trying to fake a thing that's like, oh, this is my persona and it's not really, like, is never as compelling as just being yourself and like, you know, being true to whatever.
Okay. I'm gonna senior engineer you right now and say it depends. Because I think that there are podcasts that very much have that feel of like, I want a marketing, like it's a marketing ploy or whatever else. And I guess to one degree, that's what we started here initially. But our vibe is not that. Our vibe is hanging out. Our vibe is following a loose structure. Our vibe is, you know, trying to dig out some interesting different things. And then also just like, hey, you and we're drinking and we're talking about tech things because believe it or not, we do that offline too. And just kind of sharing those real conversations with people, especially like people who maybe haven't been in the industry as long as like that, I guess, was one plus to being in office with your team is that you'd sit and bullshit through some different things that you maybe like read about and thought were cool, or you're working through something and you're like, hey, Robbie, come sit down here. I think this was like kind of clever. And you're like, not as clever as you think because blah, blah, blah. You know, that's what's happening here on ours. So on the podcast, yes. In a work situation, absolutely not. This is not how I am as your manager. Like, no way. I'm not like completely closed off because, you know, you are building relationships to a degree, but you're also not like oversharing and you know, you're like maintaining professional lines, I think. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody likes me either. So
Yeah, well,
not for money.
So I do think you're right that like I always try to keep it somewhat professional at work. I guess what I'm getting at is like, say the you know, YouTube craze of like, let's just take a bar of soap and like cut it up, right? Like, do you do that to make money, or do you do what you like regardless of whether it makes money? You know what I mean? Like should we spin this show? Should we take the whiskey part out? We could still drink the whiskey, we just won't talk about it because we want more listeners who drop off during that part. You know what I mean? Like, what do we feel like, you know, in general? Is like that going to actually help, or is it better to do the thing you want to do and just stay on that, and if it works, it works?
Yeah. Well, if we dropped the whiskey as an explicit part, I think that we would blend in too much. We're not trying to do what Wes and Scott are doing, right? Like they do it well. They're going down a particular path. We're not trying to do that. We're not trying to do
You may list podcasts?
Yeah, tell me another podcast.
Shop
I was
Talk,
thinking of Shop
Tomorrow
Talk,
FM.
Changelog, whatever. I mean, well, we're closer aligned to Tomorrow FM, right? Because they're kind of like doing a very conversational post, and we add alcohol to it, so that way, things
even
get
more
loosened up and whatever else. Yeah, I think it adds something to it. I was thinking like DevTools, right? So like that is very subject specific and goes down a rabbit hole of that specific subject. We don't have the same specific subject. So I think we would be remiss to remove the discussion of whiskey. We're bringing a passion that is less tech focused and gets us into fireside chat mode. So
yeah, for what it's worth, people don't seem to be skipping it. The people that do listen, they do absolutely every single time skip if we're like, this is brought to you by, that gets skipped every single time. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Which is hilarious because I do it all the time for fun. This episode is sponsored by Torque. Jason Torres will be receiving an invoice shortly for that sponsorship. Yeah. It'll run 6 episodes, and I hope you have a budget of at least $4,000 because I'm running low on whiskey money, bro. Whiskey money.
No, I mean the ones at the beginning, because people know that's where ads are. Yeah. And if you start to say something that sounds like an ad, they just skip, hit skip until they hear you not say that anymore.
Though. I do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Ones I enjoy.
This just in, Whiskey.fund is now open for all your merch needs. That's right, Robbie. We're hearing reports of hats, sweaters, and t-shirts, as well as a link to join our Discord server. What's a Discord server? Just read the prompter, man. Hit subscribe, leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, and tell your friends about our broadcast. It really does help us reach more people and keeps the show growing. All right, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
It's hard to monetize a podcast because unless you have so many listeners that you can be sure, like we talked about this, I guess, in the car on the way to or from All Things Open, how many people do you have to have for it to there to be enough people that actually do a thing? Because I'm thinking we tell people, hey, go to whiskey.fund, or hey, check out All Things Open, or whatever. A handful of people will do it, not that many. And then that handful, basically none convert. So it's I think what the issue is that happens to everyone. No one is so compelling that everyone does it. It's just if you have an audience of 300 million people and 1% of them do a thing, then it's oh, okay, well, if you can consistently do
valuable. Yeah, I think any kind of conversion is difficult, especially for folks that this is a full-time gig and must be monetized. I mean, there's certainly experts in the field. I already mentioned Sentry. I brought up Changelog. Changelog is excellent at providing value across multiple subject matters, adding ads in a tasteful way. They're very much professional, so maybe that's a variance comparatively, but we're working on it. We're 3 years in. 3 years. Can you believe this shit?
No,
3
I think both
years.
ways help. The Sentry way is nice because it's a brand recognition. We just keep Sentry, but we're not pushing it on you. There's no codes. It's just if you want to handle some errors, you should check it out, which I think is the best way to do ads, because if you have an explicit ad that's go to this thing because we told you to, go to /WhiskeyWebFM and you'll get 10% off. Everyone's going to be first off, no. Second off, maybe I remember the thing you talked about later and forget to go to your link and just Google it or whatever. So I don't think that's a great way to do it. Changelog is the complete other side, super professional, super polished, super when you have it like that, you can do a couple more ads that are baked in and have a link associated with them and get more conversions, I feel because it's so regimented. But
I think we should do a series. Okay, I have an idea right now. We'll see where this goes. But I think we should do a series of the business of podcasting, whether it's an actual full-time business or not, kind of secondary.
My business.
To anyone who's willing to be very transparent. I mean, because again, it's I'm not going to take your listens, bro. Don't worry about it. But people ask us all the time, what do you recommend? What do you recommend in our equipment? What do you recommend in terms of making this a thing?
I recommend a big pile of luck. That's how you do well.
I mean, that's life in general.
Charisma?
Yes, charisma, which I keep trying to work on. I watch Robbie.
Yeah. I've been taking my charisma pills, but they just aren't quite working.
Yeah. Charisma Carpenter. Remember her?
No. Is that your sister?
No. No. There's so many terrible things I can say there. Not related. Luckily. I am from Kentucky, though. It wouldn't matter. No, she was in like Buffy or something. And it was like one of the early people I remember. Buffy. Like, aside from director John Carpenter, there's like, my last name is not frequently famous people. So John Carpenter, her, there's that singer now, Sabrina Carpenter, right? I think.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, getting back to it, I would like to do a series of podcasts about the business of podcasting. And we could have guests from various popular tech podcasts if they are willing to kind of talk about some behind the scenes. That, I think, is very interesting.
I think the business of anything is interesting. We don't have to limit it to podcasts, but we could start with that. But like,
start with podcast.
I feel like I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast or even to you. I feel like I mentioned it to everyone. So let me know if I've talked about this before. Like Old Town Alexandria, bougie, expensive area, right? Mm-hmm. 2 wig shops there. How is there even one, let alone 2? And then like, how would you sell enough wigs? And that's maybe an extreme example because those are clearly a front for drugs or something.
Something weird.
But
they got
let's even say Lululemon. Like, do they actually expect to turn a profit based on their rent there? Or is it like advertising budget, right? You're seeing it as you walk by, you think about it, and you go online and buy it later.
I do think brick and mortars a lot of times are like one of two things. I do think they're a marketing budget. Part of it is like seeing, touching, feeling, like, you know, I guess touching and feeling aren't different, but I do think it gets you like some sort of in person, but then people like buying online, especially something like expensive like that. Yeah, I would say even for me, it was like I'm more apt to, I don't like trying things on. Actually, I'm more apt to like buy 4 things online, figure out the one I want, and send the other 3 back.
Oh, absolutely. I will never go try something on. I do like to go see things in person and like feel the material. Yeah. But I'm not, if I'm like, hey, I don't know if, you know, I'm a large or an XL, I'll be like, I'll just buy both and I'll bring back the one I don't want. Like,
well, I don't know if I'm a medium or large, by the way. A medium, at least in our t-shirts, the most recent one. And
which are
happy
fire.
about that. But let me step back a little bit here because you went all over the place. There's a similar but different situation in Old Town Scottsdale. So like Scottsdale, super bougie place. I mean, I've seen more supercars in Scottsdale, Arizona than I have anywhere in the world that I've traveled to. And that was like, you know, in Europe, that's in like Dubai where you can buy a Lamborghini in the mall, you know, shit like that, whatever. Still, Scottsdale like covers it. Just, I don't know.
Is it there are more car people there because their cars don't rust as much?
Yeah, I think there's part of it. And I think people have additional houses and things like that and they keep things here. There's definitely some of that. But there are like a bunch of like souvenir and art stores that look like they've been there for 50 years or so. I'm sure they got a really long, super cheap deal before things blew up. Half the time they're closed. And you're like, this real estate is incredibly prime. Like, how is this with like 5 pieces of art in the window that are like 5,000 plus? Like, who's buying this? Nobody's buying this. Yeah. You don't care if they buy it. You sell 1 a year and cover your mortgage. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I had not considered what you just mentioned, that they maybe have like a 10-year lease and they got a good deal a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's maybe how they survive. Because I'm looking at like today's rent and I'm like, ain't no way. Like, you're going in here. There was a place like that in Old Town. It's like a little knickknack shop. You buy like political shirts, like a Trump bobblehead, shit like that. It's like maximum price of everything. All of them was $20 per. Like was like the most expensive thing was $20, right? So I'm like, all right, your rent has got to be $10,000 a month.
Yeah,
and you're telling me that you're gonna sell, what's that add up to? I don't know, thousands of these little bullshit
just to cover
things.
your rent.
Like, I don't think so. And then you're going to also hire someone to work there unless you're the owner working there.
There's a whole commercial real estate world that we don't understand. I'm certain of this.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about this because you were saying like, oh, there's a Moby Dick moving it, down the road, and it's in Great Falls, Virginia. And I will give you Robbie's address later if you want to send him a bag of dicks.
Yeah.
I've
Just
sent
come
him
to
many.
Cars and Coffee, and once every year, Chuck will be there.
Yeah, Katie's Cars and Coffee in Great Falls, Virginia is one of the better. I would say I'm underwhelmed this last visit, but in my past visits, it's huge.
You mean at the
It's got a
quality
bunch
of the cars?
cool-
It was pretty packed.
It's been much bigger, and maybe it's me because I'm biased. I want to see a lot of Porsche. There was not that many, and a lot of them were 996s on, so I didn't get a very diverse selection of air-cooled back. But I mean, they'll rotate some stuff because there was like that little area that had 3 or 4 DeLoreans in excellent condition, and that that's kind of fun. But
Yeah, and people came and went. Like,
yeah, they do that.
yeah, they would leave, and then someone else would park there. And
Yeah, exactly.
so I'm sure we missed some things, but yeah, I mean, I've been to, just a few myself, having not had a car that's worth going with pretty much ever, except I never took the Bronco. I should
Right.
have before I
That
sold
would have
it.
been the time. Yes.
Yeah. I'm surprised that no one really has much of that. I guess it's not a performance showy vehicle per se, but it's like,
no, it's anything because I saw like this old truck that was kind of lifted. It was like some 50s truck, and it was lifted, and it was like old school looking. That pulled in. There was a lot of interesting stuff there. I would say the difference between like that and Cars and Coffee in Scottsdale, there would be like a Bugatti Veyron. I saw that. That's $1 million car. You'll see that in Scottsdale. I saw the one.
well, everyone
that has,
paid for their houses here, so they can't afford that here.
Yeah, exactly. That motorcycle that has a jet engine on it, I saw there one time, that kind of stuff like shows up here. There you get a greater diversity of like really cool vintage cars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see here. I'm not touching your second bullet point.
I can bring it up.
Go ahead.
We are publicly anti-Guillermo already, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, just because he stole 2 things. This is the problem I have. One is that like they ghost us. We sent whiskey, which cost us money out of our pockets. Like, good for you, Guillermo. Guillermo's a smart guy. He has created a bunch of really cool things. He sold some
I
of them.
use a lot of them. So,
and we use them too. So
Yeah.
we don't, his personal thing doesn't affect like our professional decisions. But like he took whiskey, he ghosted us, and his 45 different personal assistants now refuse to reply to us as to like, he said, fuck off. I don't know. I don't know what he said. I don't know what he thinks,
Yeah,
but I'm like really annoyed with that.
I would respect it
And-
a lot more if you just told us why. Because like up until he said no, he was like, sounds cool. This
Yeah.
is the kind of whiskey I like.
He's been on other podcasts where you
Yeah.
just like spiel like the bullshit
so either
spiel.
like if we hit you at the wrong time, then you go, hey, I'm sorry, let's reschedule for a few
Let's
months
do
from
it
now.
in 6
whatever.
months. Like,
Yeah.
happy to do that. Yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was just like he decided no, and like we got no explanation. And I'm like, at least tell us why. Like, I can understand. I might be mad still, but I would understand if you gave me a reason of like, hey, he thinks you're a dick, so he's not going to come on. Valid point. Like, okay,
You hate
Like-
React. He said, nah,
Yeah.
I'm good.
yeah. But yeah. So anyway, this point I put on here, I didn't know why this was a thing. I just saw everyone being like, oh, guess we got to get off for sale now. And I was like, wait, why? So this Bluesky came in handy because I searched for sale and it showed me all the posts. And like, it was actually Kelly Vaughn was like, had a screenshot of like him being like, yeah, President Trump, you're the best. Like, so glad you won with this like super awesome election. And Elon helped so much with all the free speech and the blah, blah, blah. And everyone is just like mass, like, oh, well, Vercel isn't an option anymore. And so people will just creep into those and be like, hey, I use Netlify, by the way. So that, that's another thing that we've talked about before is like, separating the art from the artist. This is a little different, but like, is Vercel still the best product versus Netlify? Like, is it worth changing just over like the political views of who's in charge? I don't know,
well, I say, first of all, I say this, be careful how far you dig into the people behind, the genius or whatever else. Like, I think you're not going to like what you find for a lot of people, especially in like American ingenuity. I think you're not going to like what you find there. Like, you're not going to align with their personal views from recently to 100 years ago. You're just going to like keep finding things that, philanderers and assholes and racists and who knows. You're not going to like what you find. Do you like what you're experiencing?
People in power abuse power.
Yeah,
100%.
I think there's a frequency to that.
Yeah.
For better or worse. So there is something to be said about that. Are you going to sell your Tesla? Are you going to, like, how far are you going with it? I don't like Elon.
Me personally?
Okay, well,
I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I think in general, like, Tesla has revolutionized electric vehicles in America and the world. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
They pressed other automakers to like really get into this space, and they proved a lot in their first 5+ years. Like, there's a ton going on there. So if you don't like Elon because of this, then you should sell your Tesla and you should not have a Starlink, and there are conveniences that you are going to lose, and that's okay if that's the trade-off that you're willing to do. I just don't know that, like, if that is how your values align, like, it's almost like veganism, right, to a degree. Anything made with animal products, right? So anything made with Elon products, I'm out. That's it.
Yeah. I think until, like, even the past few weeks, I feel like I kind of understood how people could, like, blanket hate a person, not use it, whatever. And now I think there's just a lot of nuance. Anyone can spin anyone to look evil at any given point. I think, while I'm not endorsing any parties or anything here, but I'm saying, like, I think that we've, all gotten so polarized, and like, you see one post from someone that you trust and everyone just doesn't do their own research on anything and just like piles on. I think there's some truth and some not truth to everything. Like, you just need to make up your own mind, do some more research, and like, anyone can have a bad day. Anyone can be taken out of context. Anything bad can happen anywhere, and like, give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Certainly. And I do believe in the power of boycotting. I'm not saying I would never do that, because I absolutely would, because I can hold a grudge when I get pushed over a line, and I will be like, yep, fuck you, I'm done. I don't give a shit. So you should do that. Like, if you believe that strongly, or you've been affected directly or whatever else, you absolutely should do that, and you should encourage those and whatever else. Totally take that. It's just, I'm just saying it can't apply across your entire life, because our environment, like financially, politically, and whatever else in many ways, is just like, you're probably not going to agree across the board and how those things go. So I would say take that power into account. You're not going to go create a new country and like have this beautiful little like bubble world. It's just, it doesn't exist.
And I would say to the people who like hate Elon and won't touch any of his stuff, if you care about the environment, which I would assume the people that hate Elon do, he's putting out electric cars, and he's maybe the only person doing anything environmentally friendly that Trump likes. So like, take a step back. Maybe everyone could have some benefits if, like, maybe I should stop talking about this. What are we, let's see what else we have. Oh, yes. We got a new leaf blower. It is sick.
Is it gas powered or electric?
No, it's electric. I won't buy anything gas powered because, I mean, I do care about the environment, but also I just don't want it to be loud, and I don't want to have to go get gas. That's just inconvenient.
2-cycle oil and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I got it's not the most powerful Ryobi one, but it's like, it's pretty close. Like, so the one I had before was like 280 CFM, and this one's 730. So like much more powerful. It puts the other one to shame. I went out there and started blowing leaves, and it was just like all gone. And I was like, my God, what have I been wasting all of my time on for the past?
Did you just get this? Like,
today.
Oh, today. Okay. Yeah. So this is topical.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I saw you like flailing about because Robbie has a lot of trees around his house. And as the seasons change, like obviously there's many leaves and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, oh man, are you sure you want to go out there and do that? And he's like, yeah, I guess. Leaves blowing down around him. It's like just absolute the futility of it is very entertaining, or was entertaining, but now he's like crushing it.
So problem is solved now. Like I think within 2 hours, I could blow all of the leaves from all of my property into the woods.
Yeah.
And so that is just like so much different than the experience I was having. You know, it's kind of like going from using React to like Laravel or a Rails. It just makes everything so much quicker.
Okay. So let's talk about this briefly. So speaking of Jason's, but not the one who has been chatting with us, you're going to fly to Houston and
yes,
Houston, and do one of Jason's
Web Dev Challenge.
Yeah, Web Dev challenges. I challenge you to use Laravel.
See, it's already been done is the thing. I'm leaning towards getting a little out of my Ember comfort zone and maybe doing Astro or like trying to make, you know, web standards be the thing and less like JavaScript magic. I haven't decided yet. But
so I'm trying to make Fetch happen. Fetch.
So there will be it's going to be full stack. You have to like integrate with a MailChimp API and like do some stuff. So I think it behooves me to use a thing with like API routes and stuff. So Astro has that capability. Ember does not. So I like that encapsulation of like I can do whatever my back-endy stuff is in this file and like just hit that. I think that will be quicker. Even though I could do the front end way quicker in Ember, I think overall it'll be quicker to do in Astro.
Yeah. I mean, you want to spin up and have a thing. I would be remiss to not mention Next 15. It has like this whole thing where, so you have your use server, use client, whole whatever bullshit.
Using.
Not a hook, just a flag. Like use strict used to be. And they're like, you're going to take that and do something else with it. I have no idea what's happening under the hood yet. But you, instead of creating API routes, because we're on an app router and not a page router,
so you can't have files anymore.
Right. Like, and all the files are called page or layout, by the way. Tell me why that's better than index. I'm not sure. I mean, it's mildly better, I guess, because it separates explicitly the page itself and the layout.
But index, okay, sorry, keep your thought. Index is fundamentally the way routing and JavaScript works. If you have foo/index and you go to foo, it will automatically load
by default
index.
Picks up the index.
Anyway, continue.
Server actions. So server actions are the new thing. And you can organize them in a few different ways. You can organize them in context directly. Like you can have a function, and then at the top you say, use server for this function. And then you can do your server things. Or you can separate it and import it and put it in actions out here and tell it use server. I don't know. This is just the world I'm living in right now. Like it or hate it, not sure. But it is very different. Like I want to talk to Dax a little about this. Of like how they just, every major release is just a fundamental change in how you think about this. Yeah. And I do want to like preface this with like, I was very much a Next fan. I came into Next at like version 8 or 9, something around there. And I was like, oh my God, this is good. React apps, like create React app is like fuckery. And people bring in 64 different ways to deal with state and whatever else.
We can all agree create React app was not a good one.
Yeah, not good. And because you were still kind of Lego piecing your stuff together. And that wasn't fun, and learning 4 or 5 different ways, especially as like a consultant who was like coming into other people's opinions, right? So Next kind of saved me from that. Big Next fan. Send him some whiskey. If I mentioned that, like this motherfucker's like stole $100 from us, like he's got it. I'm going to go to the shitty city of San Francisco. No, I'm just kidding. It's not shitty.
It's not great.
And this is the part that people love or drop off from, which is that I'm a little drunk now, and I'm on a rant, and I'm saying that like Next used to have very strong opinions, and I do think they still do. I hold the point that they do have strong opinions.
But they used to make sense.
But that like every major release, they kind of nudge to another version of that opinion. And that's not what I bought into initially. And then, like, that's what's kind of annoying. And that's what's like, actually, I don't know that much about Ember 4, but I remember loving that about Ember is that these strong opinions were fairly consistent. And we were just moving into like deeper and deeper ingrained in those opinions.
Yeah. Ember has changed a lot to where like we're actually almost on 6 now. And when I say we, I of course don't mean us at Amazon. So we'll be stuck on 3 until the day I die. But
that's a good one. 3 is a good one.
328 was a really good one because you could use the old and the new. You could, I mean, you still can. Like they're very good about like backwards compatibility and like, you know, if you have a component that's still on like really old shit that shouldn't work, it will still kind of work. So Next, I was on the Next train too. Like Netflix was using it. Everyone was using it. It was like the shit. It was like kind of very similar. I'd use Nuxt a lot. It was all like file-based routing, all magic, like a lot of magic that I liked. So where I don't have to explicitly go configure a thing. And it just like, it became it's so tedious. And I maintain, like, I want to hear more about React compiler, where they've basically acknowledged, hey, this blows. Let's let you write it one way and we'll just compile it and get rid of the complexity. And like, that's the way I think a lot of things should work. We should be able to have, all right, I'm writing Next.js 10, but I want you to just compile, transpile, magic key, just make it the new one. Like, you know what I meant. I wrote it this way, convert it to whatever you want it to be. Like, I shouldn't have to learn a new thing every 6 months because you changed your mind.
Here's the thing, is that you're conflating React and Next, and they're different. Even though
I know,
there's an overlap.
Just a couple
like Next
examples.
15 still uses an RC version of React
because they control React and Next, and it's
to a degree
not a good thing. Yeah,
you know? Yeah, because a for-profit. Well, it's always been a for-profit and like initiative.
Yeah,
so.
but a switch flipped. Maybe it was at a certain level of profitability or like investors that he's like beholden to, but. Like, it used to be, I don't think there were that many people ever, like, you know, a few years back that were like, oh, Vercel and Guillermo, like, no. They were like before it was called Vercel even, like, it was like Zeit, and there was something before that, and like...
Oh, was it? Yeah,
I think so.
I got on board when it was Zeit. I was like, oh my God, this is fun and easy.
Yeah, during all of that, it kind of had that, like, even when it became Vercel, it was still that, like, super bass kind of, like, oh, this is hot. This is like, yeah, we're all into this. And then something flipped. They were just like, oh, like we realized we need to make this proprietary and make only our stuff work the best. And like whole mental model shifted. They all wore black shirts. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it just feels very evil empire-y.
Is weird.
Like, and I don't know why it has to be that way, because we all loved everything for a long time. And I think we still could if they just made a few better choices.
So you could potentially love a React framework.
Well, the thing that I liked is I hate how React has no conventions. I'm a big conventions guy. I stand by the fact that you must have routing to be a framework. I don't want to install React Router.
I haven't messed with it, but TanStack is getting a lot. It's getting a lot of like, a lot of fanfare, a lot of like, people are excited.
Yeah. Shout out to Tanner, guest of the podcast. Yeah. Check out episode something. I don't know what number it is.
90? I don't know. It was a
just
while
Google
ago.
Whiskey Web and whatnot. Tanner. Oh, okay. Well, we're over time and probably didn't really get to any topics. But quick note: I have been drinking eggnog for the past week and a half.
I know why you look fatter.
Well, that's from the food. I had Taco Bell for lunch.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I am here for the team that's like November 1st, Christmas, let's decorate. Like, we got lights out. I mean, we don't yet, but like in the neighborhood, people have lights out. Eggnog is flowing. We got like, we're going to start decorating inside soon because Thanksgiving is so late. Like, you can't wait till after Thanksgiving. It'll already be fucking December.
We typically decorate like the day after Thanksgiving, but we don't. We like put some things out. We'll like do some pumpkin-y, like we have a good like Halloween to Thanksgiving transition where you have some like leaf things and pumpkins and whatever else. But we don't, there's no tree until after Thanksgiving.
Oh, I was told today we added another tree. I think we're at 5 trees now that we're going to have. It's getting out of hand.
5 trees?
Yeah.
Wait, 5 Christmas trees?
Yeah, 1 real one, which goes in the basement, and then 1 fancy one that has to be all, color coordinated for the main tree and like the front window. Then a smaller one in the family room, 1 in our room, 1 in Finn's room.
You would not survive.
They're everywhere.
You would not survive in Europe. You absolutely would not.
They don't believe in
unless
having a lot
you
of Christmas
had
trees.
like George Clooney kind of money, because nobody has that kind of space. They're not we're putting our funds. Yeah.
Well, we would adjust to our
countries.
space. Like if we had less space, you'd have less trees. It's just like
you should.
Caitlin's thinking about the areas that you can see trees in, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we should have them in all these areas."
We're all moving to Europe. We're gonna start Shipshape Europe.
I mean,
I'm gonna get you into proper football.
Really, the only 2 things that I can't get behind about Europe: 1, salaries are like you work for free, and 2, I don't remember what 2 was.
2 is the most important part.
Yeah. Well, the salary
I don't like
thing is
one
important.
either. I don't like one either.
Oh, 2. I guess 2 is the other flip side of the housing is really expensive, depending on where you are.
Nope.
Like, okay, well, in London for sure. Like,
Yeah,
I know I've looked
London's
at jobs
ridiculous.
in London, and it's like, all right, super senior staff leading the company dev, 75,000, and then it's like, okay,
But
the median
that
house
salary
price
is like the same in Manchester, which is a city.
Yeah, but
and
I'm
the
saying,
cost of everything is cheaper.
who has what jobs in London that's like, oh, this flat that's like 500 square feet is $2 million. I don't get how it works. I don't know.
I think that's an internationalized city, and I don't think that the British own it or something, if I had to guess.
That's fair. Yeah. And there are places that are affordable for sure. And I could get behind the whole like much less working where it's like, oh yeah,
work-life balance. That's why the salaries are lower. They're like, listen, these fuckers are working like 20 hours a week max.
Yeah. All right.
Let's just pay
52
them
weeks
for
a
that.
year. Of that, we work 15. So the rest is vacation.
Yeah. So actually, the ROI is pretty good. Maybe it's prime for overemployment. I don't know.
It really could be, because you'd be like, oh, I'm going to go camping for 6 months. And they'd be like, cool, see you when you get back. And then you could just start another job for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Or Americans going to abuse the system.
Oh, yeah.
You're
As
welcome,
we do.
Europe.
All right. Well, yeah, we're over time. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a drink, hang out. See you next week. I think. We're supposed to have a guest next week, but it's I don't think we sent them whiskey, so I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Ooh, can you do that? No, that's my job. That's the one thing I do is mail you whiskey.
I do some of it, but yeah, I don't know.
Figure it out.
Well, we should talk here in a sec. Peace.
You've been watching Whiskey Web and Whatnot, recorded in front of a live studio audience.
What the fuck are you talking about, Chuck?
Enjoyed the show? Subscribe.
You know people don't pay attention to these, right?
Head to whiskey.fun for merch and to join our Discord server.
I'm serious. It's like 2% of people who actually click these links.
And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and tell your friends about the show.
All right, dude, I'm out of here.
Still got it.